Hey everybody, welcome to the Trennon and Ryan Sports Show. Is it the Carolina edition? I wouldn't call it that. But what I would call it is, let's turn that crap off. But we're gonna start. We're beginning our new phase. I've talked about it a little bit in my Arkansas versus Baylor video, and we talked about it last episode. So this is our new phase of where two local guys from South Carolina are gonna be talking about their teams, who they pull for, who they watch, who they're around. And right now we're around South Carolina. So we're going to talk a little bit about them. We are going to cover football recruiting, but we're phasing out of the old way of doing things like talking about FCS football and basketball is, done. There's literally only one. You'll see by now. You've already seen the one episode that we came out about the Sweet 16, the Elite Eight, and the Final Four. So you'll have one more basketball episode, and then that's it. So before we start, Ryan, I want to go into this little rant. Not a little rant. I'll keep it very short. I want you to like and subscribe on YouTube. If you're watching this video and you're not subscribed, I'm going to be very upset. I cry myself to sleep every night, every night. To the people who don't subscribe but watch the video, I know you're out there. I know you exist. You don't subscribe and watch this video. I'm going to cry tonight. I'm going to cry as I fall asleep.
You don't want to see him cry.
No, it's very nasty. It's very ugly. But like, follow. If you're on Spotify, Apple, whatever, we have it on a lot. If you want to reach out to me and ask me, if you don't have Apple or Spotify, what? If you if you don't, you can come to me and our podcast is on a lot of platforms. A lot of platforms I completely ignore. So if you want to come to me and ask me, I could probably get you hooked up. If it's not on there, we get it on there for you. So if you come to, like I said, but that's kind of the run of it. We're going to talk a lot about football from now on. It's going to be football, football, football. This is a football show. When I came up with this idea in January, football on tension. Ryan, let's get it started. Run us through it.
Let's go. So we're going to start with some recruiting news. This is just overall recruiting news that I've seen over the week that I found interesting. We're actually going to talk about Georgia real quick. Georgia had a wonderful week of recruiting, unfortunately.
That means that Kirby really pulled out the big money,
he got McDonald's money bags out. He really sold it to him.
A car or something.
So first off, Georgia brought in 5-star athletes who can play both sides of the field. Malachi Starks, so huge pickup for the Bulldogs. I'm sure he'll be a factor once he gets on campus in 2022. The other one they pulled was kind of a steal, honestly. He was a big Clemson lead, but switched over to Georgia at the very end. So is Jalen Walker, 4-star linebacker, number 39th ranked player in the country. So it's a big deal. Georgia picked up a huge linebacker stolen away from Clemson, essentially. Kind of hurts for the Tiger fans, but I'm sure all the Gamecock fans watching this are reveling in that. The other one was kind of lost in all the news because Georgia, picked up two huge recruits and Jalen and Malachi, but the one that kind of swept under the rug was Jordan James, who was a 4-star running back. Still a big pickup. It's just not as big as the other two. But, Georgia also picked up Jordan James, 4-star running back. The other one I noticed was Travion Longmire, the 4-star athlete, went to Kentucky of all places.
Congratulations to Kentucky.
Oh. Yeah. I mean, I guess Kentucky's got to get something eventually in football. I don't know. But yeah, congratulations, Kentucky. You got a 4-star athlete. I hear he's good.
Very good.
Miami also got a nice little pickup. They got Ja'Curry Brown, 4-star quarterback. Will definitely be helpful for Miami when their current quarterback, De'Aaron King, leaves.
Yeah, I forgot he came back.
Yeah, he's come back. We'll see if he's available to play towards ACL in the final game.
Oh, yeah, there you go.
We'll see what happens with Miami this upcoming year. Their first game's against Alabama, so. And then the last piece of recruiting news that I found interesting was Tyge Hill is a 4-star defensive tackle committed to LSU for the 2022 cycle.
Okay. I
Yeah,
mean, when I look at all this,
a lot of SEC.
yeah, I'm looking over this right now. I mean, I always would think recruiting right now. Do you think these are just commitments, right?
Yeah,
So these don't have. They could lead the
they
commitment
could switch.
ultimately.
They could switch. You're correct.
I don't think Arkansas. I could look real fast, but I don't think Arkansas had any major recruits on the basketball front. Before we dive deep
Let's
into
start off with.
Carolina, um, we had a perform. We had Desi Stills,
Yeah.
one of our players for. He was a bench player. Um, he transferred. He's going to transfer. I guess he saw his playing time cut down very extremely this time. So this season, after with
Yeah.
Moses Moody, Jalen Tate, I know we don't talk about too much basketball, but I thought it was important to mention that I noticed that another thing about basketball, there's like 1,000 players in the transfer portal this time around, which is an insane number. So that's something to look out for too. I did say in the last episode I was going to talk about it a little bit, and that's me talking about it a little bit. But pretty happy with that. So, but I like all the recruiting stuff. So
Yeah.
trying to look real quick. I guess there has been nothing. Well, there's been so much. I'm going through Twitter right now, and I'm looking at this dude named Jack Luttrell, Hebron Christian Academy. Um, 23rd wide receiver got an offer from Arkansas,
There you go.
and then we offered some Vernon Glover. He's got a GPA of 4.0.
So good for him. Um, so I was looking at Arkansas. They already have at least one big commit, and Andrew Chambly, I believe is how you say his last name. Who's a four-star offensive tackle, top 300 player in the country. So Arkansas, it's a good pickup. That was about a month ago, maybe. Um, they have two guys. Arkansas has two guys that they're predicted currently to get. That's not a guarantee. It's not even a commitment. It's just what they're predicted. They're both four stars in the top 300. Emarion Harris, who's also an offensive tackle, and then Miles Rouser, who's a four-star safety, is predicted to Arkansas as well. I did a little bit of digging last week at Arkansas. They have some four-star blue chip players that are considering Arkansas very heavily that are outside the top 300, like in the top 400, top 500 range. Still very good players that can immediately come into Arkansas and make an impact, especially um, as they're going through coaching changes. I mean, they have their current coaches have 1 year so far, so they're still building to what they're trying to get to. So I mean, I think there's some good stuff coming in for Arkansas. I think Arkansas could land 4 to 5 four-star recruits, which is a very good start, honestly.
Right. So I mean for the Hogs, are there rival recruiting or is there recruiting rankings out right now for like the class of 22?
Yeah.
I'm gonna look that up real fast because that intrigues me.
I
I
got
think
you.
football recruiting is something I definitely want to get more into. But for 20
It takes a lot of in depth. It's a lot. So you want to look up Arkansas's?
we're 13th in the country right now.
Yeah. So Arkansas
We
is
got 24.
tied with Bama.
Hell yeah, brother.
So I mean,
We're
Bama.
actually so I'm looking at 24/7 sports right now on my phone. So they have Ohio State number one with 3 5 stars and 8 4 stars. Georgia's got 3 5 stars, 8 4 stars. Poof, so they're tied. LSU's got 2 5s, 7 4s, and 3 2s, and 3 2 3s. Excuse me. Notre Dame's got 7 4 stars. Texas A&M has 7 4 stars. Penn State has 8 4 stars. Wow. Oklahoma has 2 5 stars, 3 4 stars, and 2 3 stars. Congratulations to Oklahoma.
Uma.
Arkansas is ahead of Clemson right now. Three
Yeah.
4 stars, 5 3 stars.
Clemson's been lacking a little bit.
Clemson's got 4 4 stars, and that's it.
They
You know,
got
Dabo can be very picky.
a lot of potential to grab players, but they just haven't
And it's
got
so early right now. They
it's
haven't even played their senior year of high school yet. You know what I mean?
very early. Clemson's got one, two, three, four, five.
Oregon's doing great. Oh my god. What the heck? I did not expect us to be so highly ranked, so good. Oregon State's also, and Baylor. Baylor's got 9 3 stars. Poof.
Yeah,
Almost got their whole recruiting class. USC's got 1 5 star. That's kind of rare for them.
yeah.
Texas had. Oh, Texas has already got 1 5 star. And Steve Sarkisian ain't playing around.
Nah.
But man, pretty cool recruiting news. I will say. I'm pretty happy. Pretty happy. It's early though. Very.
But moving on I wanted to talk a little bit about South Carolina, the Gamecocks.
Hence the jersey and the cool hat.
Cool, cool hat. So we're going to talk a little bit about what's been going on with South Carolina during their spring practices and some kind of news that's come out so far. Let's start on the good news first. There's some good, there's some bad, there's some ugly, and there's actually a little bit of great. There's some great. So we're going to start with the great. A lot of people are looking at South Carolina's defensive line, and they're saying it could be one of the best defensive lines South Carolina's ever had.
Wow. That's some pretty good ones.
If you think about who's been at South Carolina, especially in the past decade, Clowney being the big one, obviously.
Shaq Barrett, I think, was one of them.
Who was that?
Shaq Barrett, wasn't he one of them? I could be wrong about that.
But South Carolina is returning some big players. They have 2 former 5-star players who were some of the best recruits in the country, and Zach Pickens and Jordan Birch. They'll be the headliners on that defensive line. They also have returned all ACC defensive lineman Kingsley. I don't want to butcher his last name. I apologize. Ina Barr. I probably butchered that, and I apologize.
That was rough.
He was all SEC last season. He's going to be a really good player. So I mean, those are 3 really, really good players that they're putting on that defensive line. I think that's going to be one of their biggest strengths going into this upcoming season. I think they have a little bit of depth there on that defensive line too. It's being predicted. We'll see how it actually turns out, but it's being predicted that their defensive line will probably be one of the top in the country, but also in the SEC.
I see an article right here where it says it's really one of the nationally ranked best defensive line.
I mean, if just having one of the best defensive lines in the SEC, you're one of the best in the country automatically. I could see, obviously Alabama and probably Georgia being better in terms of defensive line. I could honestly see South Carolina being better than Georgia at defensive line.
Wow.
They look really good. The other point that I saw was a big positive for South Carolina is the run game. Shane is going to have a very talented run game coming back. Kevin Harris returns. He was phenomenal last year. He's a really good running back. They also have a former 5-star running back whose career has been hampered with a little bit of injuries, and Marshawn Lloyd. He's very talented, but injuries have kind of gotten in the way. It's very unfortunate, but he's supposed to be fit. He's supposed to be kind of in a good place right now, so he'll probably be the backup behind Harris, when rightfully so. Harris played phenomenally last year. And then you also have, to that, Luke Doty, who's projected to be the starting quarterback. I think he'll be the starting quarterback, especially after his performances last year where he did pretty well. Luke Doty is a big dual threat quarterback. He likes to run the ball. He's very good at running the ball. Honestly, with all those, good running backs, we're good running quarterback, I could see a lot of read options coming out of South Carolina. I know that's something that at Oklahoma, which is where Shane Beamer's coming from, and coaching on the offense. Oklahoma ran a lot of read options as well. Um, and so I would definitely expect to see a lot of that. I know when we had like Murray and Jalen Hurts, Spencer Rattler too.
And Doty's one who can run the ball.
Yeah, exactly. Quarterbacks who can run the ball, it helps a lot. Um, they're also saying that South Carolina's offensive line is supposed to be very solid this upcoming season, so it's going to be a very solid offensive line. They're not expecting it to be great, but they're saying it's going to be very experienced and very knowledgeable, and they should have they should be able to put out pretty well and open up holes for the run game. Um, those were the main positives I found. I think that it's definitely a good start for Shane Beamer. Luke Doty's young. I think Zach Pickens will be draft eligible after this upcoming year. I think Kingsley as well. So you could lose those two, but Jordan Birch will be around for a little bit. He's a true sophomore. Moving on to kind of
Well, let me speak
go for it. Go for it.
on Luke Doty, Marshawn Lloyd. So I don't know a lot about South Carolina's defensive line. I know nothing about it. But I do know a little bit about Marshawn Lloyd, Kevin Harris, and Luke Doty. I think Kevin Harris would be what one would say is more of a power runner,
Mm-hmm.
where I think Marshawn Lloyd was more of a like skinny type, more of a elusive type. Could be wrong about that, but that's what I think I saw throughout the season, or what I think I know about Marshawn Lloyd. But Luke Doty, I mean, I think Shane Beamer's got a pretty decent little coaching staff. It's not the best in the world. It's not the worst, but I think it's okay enough
Yeah.
to where it will help him out a lot, which he'll need a lot of help. South Carolina was pretty bad last year. Um, are you about to move on from South Carolina, or are we gonna go? Or are you
No,
moving?
we're sticking with South Carolina.
Okay, well, but for the most part, I think Luke, Mr. Doty, will be okay.
Yeah.
And if you look at the two, really Kevin Harrison, I mean, they should be able to, especially if you say what you said about the offensive line. Um, They
I mean,
should be able to, be able to run the ball because those 2 are gonna be good, and like you said, if they're able to run the RPO, they should be able then to, really fake defenses out. They really need South Carolina's gonna,
set the play action.
or Arkansas is now, or any of the SEC teams really are. You're not gonna be able to run it down people's throat. You're not gonna be able to pass all over the SEC. You gotta find tricky ways and little things you can do to trick the other team's defense into believing you're doing one thing and then doing the other. You know what I mean? So a lot
Yeah.
of play actions, RPOs, trick plays, that kind of stuff. That kind of hides the gap that you're not as talent heavy as maybe Florida or Georgia or Clemson. I don't know. I can look at their schedule real quick. We'll talk about that later.
Yeah.
They don't
They got
play
some games to start, which will be good for South Carolina.
they don't play like Alabama or LSU this year or Arkansas. Good for them. Um, but I mean, they have a tough game. I will get into that later, but they don't play any of those big boys. But they still play Clemson and Georgia, which will be formidable opponents. And they play at Georgia, and then
At home.
they play Florida and Clemson at home. But whatever. But still, if you think about all of that, there's so much for I mean, they go against such high opponents that you got to be able to trick I mean, sometimes you're not gonna be able to, and sometimes they're just smack crap out of you. But sometimes if you're able to get, especially versus Kentucky or Vanderbilt and something like that, you need to be able to run these RPOs, these outside runs. You need to be able to stretch the defense. You need to be able to get the running game going so you can hit with the play action or get the option or get the read option going, whatever, what
Yeah.
it is. I think Doty, Kevin Harris, and Marshawn Lloyd will be able to do that beautifully. I think those 3 players are going to be very good.
Yeah, and when I was watching, I was kind of looking up a little bit of stuff about Luke Doty as well. And tell me if I'm wrong, but he kind of reminds me of like maybe a more talented Connor Shaw.
It
Would you?
does seem like that. I'm looking at his stats right now, and he only played versus Missouri, Georgia, and Kentucky.
Yeah, he played the last 3 games.
Versus Georgia, he completed 18 out of 22 for 190 yards. That's pretty good for a touchdown interception. He didn't look great against Missouri. He did start against Missouri. I think that was his first start.
Yeah.
Um, It didn't look great against Kentucky either. One touchdown, one interception, completed 11, 25. But that was a different
Yeah,
situation.
sure.
He,
At that point, South Carolina was in free fall. Was most champ. It got
yeah,
fired.
and
Everyone was
then
opting
that
out.
bum, that bum, what's his face? What's his face? The bum, Mike Bobo. I hated him. I
Oh
hated
my God, yeah.
God.
Okay, that was one thing I did want to mention too. I was kind of concerned for South Carolina when Shane Beamer kept Mike Bobo because I felt like he was a bit of a
Thank
toxic.
God he left. I hated Mike Bobo.
I think it was great for the University of South Carolina that Mike Bobo decided to leave and not stay and go to Auburn. Um, I think really anyone you could have put in that position would have done better than Mike Bobo. He single-handedly destroyed that offense last year, I feel like.
Yeah, I'm looking at some highlights of him right now, Luke Doty, and he got this 17-yard run against Missouri. He does look like a more athletic Connor Shaw.
Yes.
Connor
For
Shaw,
sure.
he was good, you know. They had a really good team back when he was the quarterback, though. So I mean, like for the most part,
You know,
yeah, I mean, he looks like he could be, he's young,
he's very
obviously,
young. Be a
and
true sophomore.
developing to do, but for the most part, I feel like he's got a lot of potential. I really, really do. I do think that.
Yeah.
Continue with what you're saying. Mike Bobo, first of all, before we go anywhere, I hate Mike Bobo. Scumbag. Colorado State beat Arkansas when he was the head coach of Colorado State before they fired his ass. He beat Arkansas when Arkansas went to Colorado State. Chad Morris. Oh, God, what a horrible. I know pain. I know pain. Arkansas, I know pain, but what a scumbag. I hate Mike Bobo. I thought he was a scumbag. He played that one dude all last year.
On the hill.
He sucked. He was
They
a
were two better quarterbacks on South Carolina's roster last year. Luke Doty and I thought Helinski as well.
Ryan Helinski. That was who in
But
the world?
him was shameful.
Yeah, they really did. They really did him dirty.
Yeah.
Mike Bobo, what a scumbag. I hate Mike Bobo. When he
I
went to Georgia, didn't he?
was that?
He went to Georgia?
Went to Auburn.
Ugh, of course he did. Scumbag school.
I honestly feel
Scumbag.
like Mike Bobo put Colin Hill out there so that way South Carolina would have bad performances, so he could get Muschamp fired. He could take over his.
I mean, there's no way Muschamp could have been that stupid.
I mean,
He might have been, I guess, but how could you? I mean, do they not like?
you
Just
come in. Let me think about this. You come in and you have two four-star quarterbacks, and Doty and Helinski, and you say, you know what? I don't want to play either of those two guys. I want to play this transfer from Colorado State who's barely played and is. I mean, honestly,
kind of
didn't
a
look
bump.
great. I mean, he didn't look that great. I mean,
He was stiff. First of all, he's a stiff. What is the old? He's stiff as a tree. He couldn't move. He couldn't run.
no.
And then so if he went down, he got sacked. He was just at least with Helinski and Doty, you get an opportunity for the scramble, the option. It allows for a different kind of a
Yeah.
game plan. Colin Hill was no more than a game manager, and your team is not good enough for just a game manager. You had that one good. Who was that one guy? Shy Smith, I think his name was.
Yeah, he's pretty
He
good.
was good, but the rest of the team was kind of like. Eh. I mean, Kevin Harris had a pretty good season, but the rest of the team like. Eh. So I mean, I think what's best for South Carolina, maybe Mike Bobo did the fans of South Carolina a good thing by playing Colin Hill because you cleaned your house. You got rid of all that crap, all those players leaving. You got rid of all the like stuff that happened at the end of the season when they all like opted out like right before the last couple games. And South Carolina, it was a disaster of a season. But sometimes you need to have that kind of season to really kind of see who you are. You know what I mean? I mean, that's the same thing I had in Arkansas. If you look at Arkansas, they had that one season under Chad Morris was so bad. And I mean, one of the worst seasons of all time. And then, but it led to something that's really great that was really great for our program, great for our people and stuff, great for our, student athletes and our football team.
Yeah, I think it's important to have, like with Arkansas, you have a coach who loves Arkansas, came from Arkansas, and is going to do everything he can to make sure Arkansas wins. And now it's the same with South Carolina. Shane Bieber comes from the state of South Carolina. He was born and mostly raised here. He's coached there before. He was part of Spurrier's coaching staff, which was widely successful. He loves it here. He's going to do everything that he can to make sure they win. I don't think he's the best coach of all time. I don't think he's a sexy pick, but I think he'll be a good fit.
I mean, yeah, he has that Beamer name. That's probably what got
Yeah,
him for him,
that's
that
a big
Beamer
one.
name. I mean,
Yeah.
we'll see. I mean, Frank Beamer was a pretty good coach overall.
Oh
I
yeah,
don't think they
yeah,
ever won a national championship, but they lost one, didn't they?
yeah, close. Yeah, with Vic.
Yeah.
Um,
Nice.
I mean, honestly, if you look at it, it kind of feels honestly like a repeat Dabo hire. I know that South Carolina fans probably hate that,
Kind
but
of feels like a Sam Pittman hire. That's what it feels like to me.
when you think about it, Dabo was just a wide receivers coach. You got
It was just an offensive line coach.
yeah, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
It really kind of like because Sam Pittman was an offensive line coach and an assistant head coach,
Yeah,
and Shane Beamer was a tight end coach and an assistant head coach, I believe. He was the assistant head coach, wasn't he?
yeah,
So I think,
also special teams a little bit.
but Shane Beamer, I mean, I think he's a good. Is it the like, whoa? No. But South Carolina, you kind of got the same, not necessarily the same problem. But with Auburn, they go through a lot of coaches. It takes a man to take the Auburn job because you got to face old Nick Saban every year. If you don't beat him, and if you don't beat him, you get friggin' people start crapping on you.
Yeah,
Same thing with old Will. He never beat Clemson, so people started crapping on him. And I mean, you come Clemson's like the juggernaut that's what an hour and a half away from you.
yeah,
So it's
it's
kind
hard.
of like, you know,
It's
I don't
hard.
know. It's hard to say for South Carolina. What about what did Will Muschamp get hired somewhere? Or no.
He's like an analyst for Georgia.
Of
He's
course.
not like it's not like he's not an assistant or like like a tight end coach or whatever. He's just like an analyst. I think it's just like a holdover job until a real thing pops up for him. But
I think it'll a defensive analyst.
yeah,
You still earn it 300K.
I
God,
mean
George,
he's a good. I mean
Georgia's a rich boy. They can pay Will Muschamp $300,000 to be a defensive analyst, not even a coach, just an analyst. That's freaking bonkers.
nuts.
I mean, they got some money over there in Georgia now. Good lord.
While those recruits are going there. Anyways, um,
What? Jesus.
I did want to touch on a few of the things I saw from the spring practices that had me nervous for South Carolina.
Yeah.
The two main points is the secondary and the wide receivers. Um, Starting in wide receivers, South Carolina lost Shi Smith, who is arguably one of their best, or at last year was their best receiver. Very talented, definitely going to get drafted. They're just very inexperienced at wide receiver this upcoming year. There really wasn't like a player that everyone's like, oh my gosh, this guy's going to take over and be the next, Alshon Jeffrey or whatever. So there wasn't like really there's just a lot of inexperience. No one's really taken the steps to be like, oh my gosh, this guy's going to be the guy. Um, South Carolina's secondary. There's a few people that are kind of predicted to be stepping up. One is Cam Smith. He had 2 interceptions last year. Probably one of their more experienced guys who got some minutes, which is very important because they lost a lot. They'll have to step up and play a big role. They also got a JUCO player, Dial, and then a transfer, Spalding. Awesome last name, by the way. But they're probably going to duke it out for that cornerback role. I think Cam Smith's probably a lock to start, and then the other ones are going to be either Spalding or Deal. So yeah, I mean, there's some hope. There's definitely some hope in that secondary. It's not going to be as good as last year. Last year they had some good players. I mean, I think Horn is expected to be a first round draft pick. So we'll see what happens. I'm a little nervous about the secondary, a little nervous about the wide receiver, but I think Carolina's run game will be good and their defensive line will be very good.
I mean, we will see what happens. Let's do a deep dive on the schedule and then maybe we can figure it out more in deep. deeper.
Yeah, I also did want to say that let's see, Carolina's spring game. So I have it here somewhere. It's gonna be oh dear, where is it? April 24th. So Carolina's spring game, the Garnet and Black game will be April 24th.
April 24th. Wow, we'll try to watch that.
Yeah,
I'll have to try to watch that. I'll have it. I mean, we have it. We'll be able to watch it if we want to.
yeah, we'll figure it out.
We'll watch the highlights, maybe.
We'll see what we'll have to figure out. Yeah, we'll see what it's on.
So they play Eastern Illinois for their first game.
The Fighting Tony Robos.
I say they win that game.
Yeah, they'll win that game.
They play at East Carolina.
They should win that too.
We'll see what happens.
I think they'll win that. I think they have enough quality to win that.
That's one of those games, though. It could be like a little trap game. You know what I mean? We'll see. We'll see.
I think they'll be. I think they'll win that. I think they'll be fine there.
Then they play at Georgia. That's a loss.
That's a loss.
Sorry, South Carolina fans. I just don't have any
We're
confidence.
just being honest here. Georgia's. This is their year, so
This is Georgia's year. We'll see about that.
we'll talk about that.
Didn't they?
What'd you say?
Didn't they lose that one guy?
Yeah, they lost their receiver.
Yeah. So maybe it's not as good of a year, but they'll have that JT Daniels here. They'll be okay.
Georgia always has a year every like 2 to 3 years, and then it just doesn't work out. So, anyways,
Who we got next? So I would say so they're 2-1 at this point. Kentucky, that's a coin flip. Because Kentucky usually beats them pretty bad most of the time. I mean, the past couple of years.
the last 2 years been Carolina.
I thought Kentucky beat them this past year.
Oh, okay, maybe it was the year before.
Yeah, Kentucky did lose to them the year before, but I think Kentucky did beat them this last year.
I mean, Kentucky's not good either. I think you're right. I think it's a coin flip, but I think
they lost to Kentucky 41-18 last year.
I think that coin flip would favor Carolina a little bit just because it is a home game. And I think Carolina's got some good stuff coming up.
Oof. I can't believe they beat Auburn. What a wild game. We got Troy. We're gonna beat Troy. Yeah. So I would say they're 3-2 right now. Tennessee, I think they beat Tennessee.
I think that's gonna be a blowout win. I think that's gonna be Carolina's biggest win of the season.
So they're 4-2 right now. 5-2 versus Vanderbilt. Now we got some tough ones. So their beginning of the schedule, other than Georgia and Kentucky, is probably really easy. And then they're probably going to lose to Texas A&M, so that brings them to 4-3. If you disagree with me ever, let me know.
Yeah.
Florida, I would say 4-4. Oh, 5-4. Missouri, could they make a bowl game? They have to beat Missouri to make a bowl game.
Yeah, I think that's kind of also a coin flip, kind of similar to Kentucky, but this time I think the favorite's leaning towards Missouri. Missouri wasn't bad last year. What was their record?
They're going to probably lose to Auburn because Auburn's going to be mad about last season, and Clemson's going to beat them. So I would say
5-5.
Well, they play 12 games now, so 5-5 ain't good enough.
Well, that was Missouri's season last year.
Oh, they went 5. Oh, okay. I was about to say South Carolina. I think South Carolina either goes 6-6 or 5-7. Those are kind of mine. Now, if you can somehow beat Kentucky and Missouri, you're just not going to probably beat Florida. You're not going to be A&M. You're definitely not going to be A&M. You're not going to beat Florida. You're not going to be A&M. You're not going to be Georgia. You're not going to be Auburn. You're not going to be Clemson. Those are 5 losses.
Yeah.
So you need to scrounge together at least 6 wins, and you can have room for one more loss. But you need to not lose to – if you lose to any of the stupid games, like you can't lose to East Carolina, you can't lose to Tennessee, and can't lose to Vanderbilt. You got to beat those 3. And you should be able to beat Tennessee. They're going to stink this year.
Yeah, and one thing about Carolina is they always seem to find one win that they shouldn't win.
Like the Auburn game last year.
Yeah, the year before that it was Georgia. Right, they shouldn't have beat Georgia, and they did.
Oh yeah, they beat Georgia. They only had 4 wins that year, but they beat Georgia 20-17 in overtime.
Yeah, and
Appalachian State though.
Sorry, Coastal Carolina. I'm just kidding. But no, I think Carolina has. I think they have an opportunity to get to a bowl game. I think they'll be a pretty decent team. I don't think they'll be great, but I think they'll be decent, and I think they have a shot at a bowl. What do you think?
definitely think so. I'm
Yeah.
looking at some of their teams right now, some of their past seasons. 2017 Gamecocks only lost 4 games.
Yeah, that was a good team.
They beat NC State, Missouri, Louisiana Tech, Arkansas, Tennessee, Vanderbilt, Florida, Wofford. They lost to Clemson though. They beat Michigan in a
Out.
bowl, in the Outback Bowl. Love a good Outback Bowl. 2016 they kind of sucked. I guess they were okay. They had 6 wins, 6 losses, 6-7 that year. But so for the past couple of years they've been okay. But I think 5-7 would be either 6-6 or 5-7. That's your kind of the line there.
Yeah,
But
I agree.
we're definitely going to keep up. We're going to move on from South Carolina, but we're definitely going to keep up with more South Carolina stuff. We're not done with South Carolina yet. We got a lot more. We're going to talk about the spring game. We're going to be keeping up. They're the local team, even though they're not me and Ryan's favorite team. We're still going to talk about them. So we're going to talk about them. So that's kind of in the keep looking out for South Carolina content if that's your thing.
Yep.
In the future. Is there any more else from you, Ryan, or is that about the run of it?
No, I think that wraps up the current situation going on at South Carolina for the spring. Just kind of getting ready for that spring game. I guess this month.
Do you have any teasers about who you want to talk about next?
So we got a few options.
Like next week or next Friday?
Yeah. Who do you want to talk about next Friday? We got some options here, honestly.
I want to talk about Clemson.
Under Clemson,
Yeah.
pick a local. Yeah, we'll do Clemson. It might be a long episode. It might be a very long
You need to send
episode.
me the notes beforehand so I can read them and be informed.
Yeah, I'll send you the notes.
Yeah, there is a good amount of
I'll
stuff
send you.
here. I haven't looked at TigerNet in a hot minute. I'll have to be doing my reading up on that. But I am going to be talking about um well before we end the episode. We had this guy. I saw Robert Moore. His name's Robert Moore. And Arkansas played Central Arkansas the other day.
Is baseball?
We beat them 21-8.
Hmm.
We played Central Arkansas in front of a crowd of 5,735 people. I can't even imagine that many people being in the same area. That blows my mind.
Right now.
Yeah. And this guy, Robert Moore, hit the first cycle. You know what a cycle is? A lot of people don't hit it. That's
Cut
hard.
for a second. What?
You know what a cycle is?
No.
A cycle in baseball is when you hit a home run. Let me make sure. I got to make sure before all the baseball people, what is a cycle in baseball? Because I think it's a home run, a double, a triple, and a single. But let me make sure. And that is very hard to do. What is a cycle in baseball? Hitting the cycle. 330 times it's happened in the major league, hitting a single, double, triple, and a home run. So this guy named Robert Moore, I talked about him I posted him on the Instagram page, which make sure you follow that. But he hit the cycle the other day, so I thought he was worthy of a shout out. So
Okay.
shout out to Robert Moore. They beat the freaking Central Arkansas 21-8. What a score. A little football score for you, a little Big Ten football score for you. So I'm pretty happy about that. But that's about it. That's my last little tidbit for the this episode. But I'm pretty happy with this episode. We got a lot of good football content coming your way. This is our South Carolina prediction episode. Got a Carolina jersey on just for you South Carolina folks to prove I don't hate you. That I am a friend of the program, a friend of South Carolina. Many people call me friend. I don't know if you knew that, Ryan.
That's not.
It's true, though. It's true. Well, this is the end of the episode. I'm pretty happy. So we got an episode. Remember, so let me do some quick house cleaning stuff before we go. We got episodes coming out Monday, Wednesday, Friday now. We've got episodes. Most of these episodes are going to release on YouTube, but there will be some podcast stuff. So there's going to be podcast stuff. There's going to be YouTube content. I'm looking for 2 podcasts a week, 3 YouTube videos a week, keeping the content rolling, flowing, and moving and grooving. So I'm going to go through all this again just so I get it all down. Like and subscribe to the YouTube channel, comment, whatever. Um, Follow on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. And if you need any other um, podcasting listening platforms, let me know and I'll get them for you. Um, Follow our Insta page at TNR Sports, TNR_sports. Follow me at on Twitter at Trennon Sports. Ryan, what's yours again? I have it actually right here.
I think it's Ryan Gunn 27.
Follow us at Ryan Gunn 27. I'm gonna put all this stuff. I'm gonna put all this stuff into the YouTube description, so you'll have it for your convenience there. So I'm pretty happy about that. So please like, subscribe. Thanks for watching this episode. I hope you enjoyed our little Carolina episode, a Carolina themed episode. I'm looking forward to covering football. We're back to football. We're back to what I love, back to recruiting, the nitty gritty. I cannot wait for the fall. I just cannot wait.
I know it's gonna be fun.
I will be. All right. That's it. Any last words?
Nope.
All right. Bye, everyone. Have a great day.